Welcome, everybody, to Bet Now Presents the NFL Show. I am your co-host, Mike Goodpaster, and I'm here with my co-host, as always, from the FF Face-Off, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing awesome, Mike. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. I'm just glad I didn't use my BetNow.eu account last night to bet the game because I was wrong last night. And if you want, they've extended a special offer to people listening to Grilling Truth where you can use the promo code TRUTH100 to go over to betnow.eu. Use the promo code TRUTH100. You get a 100% cash back bonus on your first deposit up to $500. So make sure you check them out. You can also go to the grillingtruth.com. Top of the page, click on the banner for betnow.eu. Promo code TRUTH100. All right, Anthony, last night the Washington Redskins didn't look very good. The Chicago Bears, as always, as the defense goes, so goes the team. And that defense was pretty damn good last night, Anthony.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Bears, Mitchell Trubisky, it looks like they picked up where they left off at the end of the regular season last year. When that defense creates turnovers for Mitchell Trubisky, Trubisky can really play with the short field and play with that momentum. And that's exactly what he did, especially in the first half last night, putting up, 21 quick points.
Yeah, and I think Ha-Ha Clinton-Dix was huge, too, with a pick six. Played really well. Khalil Mack, as always, was really good. But my only concern with this team is, can you go all the way and win a Super Bowl depending on your defense to give you short fields all the time, especially against good teams, Anthony?
I don't know if you can do that in the modern-day NFL.
I don't know if you could do it so much in the older NFL because
the Ravens did it. The Ravens and the Bears did it.
Yeah, but how about this? The Bears also, and people forget this, when Jim McMahon was playing, they had over-the-top speed that could blow the top off your defense with guys like Willie Gault and Dennis McKinnon. You had a running back like Walter Payton. And the Ravens, they had a running back by the name of Jamal Lewis who was a bad dude back then. So when you look at it on offense, the Bears have Montgomery, who's a good player, but nowhere near the guys we talked about. I just don't know that they have enough on offense to really make big plays if they've got to go to length of the field. And Mitchell Trubisky, I'm not a huge, Jim McMahon fan, but Jim McMahon, I think, would have been a hell of an NFL quarterback without all of the injuries. And I don't even know if Mitchell Trubisky is going to be Trent Dilfer. Well, he'll probably be Trent Dilfer. But go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, I'm not a big Mitchell Trubisky guy. You know that. And just because, I tweeted out the joke of the day last night was Mitchell Trubisky's a quarterback. Then he went ahead and had a pretty good first half. But that's not going to change my mind. I don't think Mitchell Trubisky is an NFL quarterback. And I don't know if he's ever going to be an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be hard for him to develop into one with Chicago's curious run game. And, every once in a while, they're really good during the game, and then it drops off where there's not much there. And David Montgomery, I know you like him. I think he's a good running back. I still think they made a huge mistake getting rid of Jordan Howard.
I think Montgomery will be fine, but here's the issue. The reason why Montgomery can't get going is because last year, Jordan Howard had 250 carries plus an additional 20 receptions. They are not using David Montgomery to that extent yet. They're using Cohen. They're using Mike Davis. They're using Montgomery. If they want production out of David Montgomery, they could realistically use him as a 3-down back if they wanted to, because he can catch passes, especially better than Jordan Howard.
Yeah, but I think
so. It's play calling. It is play calling and commitment from Matt Nagy.
But it's the play calling that they want to do. Matt Nagy let Jordan Howard go because he wanted somebody to fit what he wanted to do. And the concern here for me is I think David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen, all these guys do fit what he wants to do. But you had Jordan Howard, a guy that could handle the ball 30 times a game if he had to be between the tackles and take a lot of heat off of a young quarterback. And I think with the offensive switch that they've made in the running game, which is why I think they let Jordan Howard go, is he didn't fit what Matt Nagy wanted to do. And I just don't know in the end with the running game the way they have it, if this makes any sense, if Mitchell Trubisky really fits what Matt Nagy wants his quarterback to be able to do.
I mean, whether he fits or not, I think we talked about this yesterday during the preview. Mitchell Trubisky was a top 5 pick, and they're not going to pull the plug on that.
Yeah. The
And
only
no,
problem
you
is,
said that to me yesterday when I said
yeah,
maybe they need to turn to a backup.
yeah, they're not going to. And the problem is this. The Chicago Bears are the only team in the world that thought Mitchell Trubisky was a top 5 pick.
I mean, sometimes he looks the part, sometimes he doesn't. The only thing that's really consistent is that he can't throw the ball to the outside consistently, and that's an issue because he's a quarterback.
Yeah, that's a huge issue because you hear him talk about a college quarterback and they say he can make all the throws. Mitchell Trubisky can't. His mechanics are not good. His feet do not follow his eyes, and a lot of times the ball will be out ahead of his feet. He doesn't close his back hip, and it makes it almost impossible to make that throw. And he's got a huge arm, but he can't make that throw. And when you've got a big arm and you can't make that throw, it's usually in your mechanics. And the problem is a lot of that's muscle memory, and he's been doing this wrong probably since he was 5 or 6 years old, and now he's, what, 24, 25? It's going to be really hard to change that.
Yeah, and I think what Matt Nagy's going to do, he's just going to continue to try to play to Mitchell Trubisky's strengths, and hopefully the defense can do their job.
Yeah, but the defense, actually, the way they're playing to win has to do more than their job. They don't need to stop people. They've got to help the offense score, and after a while, I think that's just way too much to ask one side of the ball.
I mean, they have the pieces, and it worked for them a lot of the year last year. Another observation, I think I said it on this show, I definitely said it on my show, was that the Chicago offense looks a lot different when Trey Burton is healthy and he's active in the game plan. And I think that's what we saw a little bit of last night. Trey Burton got into the action a little bit. They are easing him back because he's always kind of dealing with that groin injury that he missed the playoff game. He missed the season opener. And I think now that Trey Burton is good to go, this offense can open up a little bit because he's a versatile weapon. He can do what Adam Shaheen and Ben Broniker can't do. He can line up in the slot. He is realistically their Travis Kelce to a lesser extent, of course.
All right, so let's switch over to the Washington Redskins, where Case Keenum has yet to succeed in his first 3 starts in the nation's capital. It seems that Jay Gruden is prepared to let his quarterback try again. Last night, Keenum accounted for 5 turnovers, took 4 sacks. It's against a great defense, but still, you can't put the ball on the ground 5 times or any other team's hands a total of 5 times. And I know that Gruden made said that basically he's playing with a bunch of new guys. He's new, so he's going to give him a chance. But at some point here, don't you have to go to Dwayne Haskins, similar to what the Giants did? Because Case Keenum is not going to put you in the playoffs this year. So why don't you go ahead and try to prepare for the future?
I think Jay Gruden is going to put the guys on the field who are going to give him the best chance to win. And right now, that might be Case Keenum because he can move the football. Jay Gruden's on the hot seat. If he's with any other team but the Redskins, I think he's out of a job 2 years ago. But yeah, Jay Gruden, he knows he has to put a competitive team on the field. I think he believed he had a better defense than he actually does. I think he believed he had better offensive pieces than he actually does. So Jay Gruden is coaching for his job, and that's why I don't think we are seeing Dwayne Haskins yet.
But coaching for your job, I think Dwayne Haskins, with his ability to run and to throw the ball deep, gives you more of a chance than what Case Keenum does. Because without a defense like the Bears that can give you turnovers in short fields, I don't see how this turns out anything but bad for Keenum and Gruden. If you go with Haskins now, and over the last 13 games, you can go 6-7 or 5-8 even. You could probably keep your job just off of the promise of Dwayne Haskins.
I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. To me, I think Keenum might be the best way to go right now.
Well, I don't think they have a best.
He's
way to go
moving
now,
the ball. It's not
fight.
like they were in an Eli Manning situation where they couldn't get out of their own way. Case Keenum's moving the football. He's making Terry McLaurin look really, really good as a rookie. You know, they're without Darius Geis. They're playing without Trent Williams, I believe, still. So, Case Keenum is doing the best with what he has.
All right. I just think this. I think Jay Gruden needs to be fired. I think all Gruden should be fired from whatever jobs they have, even little Bobby Gruden, who works down at the Walmart. Next up, we're going to talk a little Troy Aikman. As the Hall of Fame quarterback and Fox analyst will take on a different, more direct tone on Twitter than he has before when it was brought to his attention that Patrick Mahomes has thrown more than a third of his career touchdown passes. Mahomes is at 60 already. Aikman for his career was 165. Despite playing in less than 10% of the game that Aikman has played in, and Aikman responded to it. Talk to me when he has won 33% of my Super Bowl titles. Now, my question to you as a Cowboys fan, Anthony, is Troy Aikman right? Is this sour grapes? What do you think?
Troy Aikman is very outspoken. He says what he wants to say, and I don't disagree with him. As a Cowboys fan, of course, I like to see that Troy Aikman still has that competitive fire. I like that he's firing back at whoever said this to him. And yeah, he is right. You could put up all the numbers in the world. Look at Dan Marino. You don't have a Super Bowl title. What does Troy Aikman, what does he cherish? What does he want more? Big numbers and get into the Hall of Fame, or 3 Super Bowl titles and probably a high winning percentage of getting the Hall of Fame. So I think Troy's right here, of course.
I think he's
They're
completely
anointing
wrong.
Patrick
I
Mahomes
think he's right with what he says.
Coming,
Hold on.
and he doesn't. He can't get out of. He couldn't get through Tom Brady and the Patriots last year.
Okay, and I guarantee you, probably neither could Troy Aikman in his prime with that team.
Come on.
Okay, so Troy Aikman wouldn't even fit in Kansas City's offense. I'm talking about him taking Kansas City's offense against New England's defense. See, this is the thing. As a Cowboys fan, you should know better than this.
I thought you meant taking his Cowboys teams against New England.
No, because that's not even close, because those Cowboy teams are one of the 2 or 3 best teams that I've ever seen. But that's also what has to be taken into effect here. It's not like Troy Aikman got drafted by the Cleveland Browns. He went to the Cowboys, who were terrible at that point. But within 2 years, with the grace of the Herschel Walker trade, that team became one of the greatest teams of all time. So with Patrick Mahomes, he's in his second season as a player, basically. He sat out his first year and watched. But my problem with this is Troy Aikman needs to shut the hell up. He's a Hall of Famer. Patrick Mahomes is an innocent bystander here. Patrick Mahomes has never said anything. So why can't Troy Aikman just let this go? If you're so secure that what you did is so great, why do you have to say anything here? And to use Patrick Mahomes here, once again, Mahomes is an innocent bystander in this whole damn thing. So if you're Troy Aikman, I mean, why are you even responding to this crap? I mean, you've got 3 Super Bowl rings. There's no reason to say anything about it. Mahomes, go ahead.
Because Troy Aikman, I feel like people try to discredit his career because he didn't put up big numbers. And it's a lot of the current fans of the NFL and a lot of the current media who look at the NFL as a passing league, where Troy Aikman had Emmitt Smith. He didn't have to throw more than 18 touchdowns in a year. So I think maybe Troy's just sick of hearing it.
Yeah, but I'm just sick of, the old guys who are trying to I mean, let's wait 10 years. Let's see what Patrick Mahomes has done. Right now, Patrick Mahomes is not a tenth of the quarterback of Troy Aikman, because Troy Aikman accomplished more. But this isn't about Super Bowl rings either, because if you ask most people in this world that lived in the 80s and the 90s, who would you rather have, Troy Aikman or Dan Marino as your starting quarterback? Most of them are going to say Dan Marino.
And they can have Dan Marino. I'd happily take Troy.
Okay. But if you had Dan Marino on those Cowboys teams, do you win more than 3?
I don't know. Do you?
Well, I mean, who was the better quarterback? If you had to start a team right now and you just had to pick a quarterback and had nothing else,
you're going to take the
taking?
Ball out of Emmitt Smith's hands?
No. But the thing is this, if, Don Shula would have had the good sense to get a running game and a defense, we wouldn't have that conversation. So I think this. I'm one that'll bring up how many championships have they won also. But at the end of the day, if you're stuck in a situation where your front office is not doing the job they're supposed to, Dan Marino had to take a Dolphins team to the Super Bowl all by himself. And all the times they made it to the playoffs, he had to do it all by himself. That has to be taken into effect here and to account. And Dan Marino put up numbers that nobody has ever seen before up until the point that he did it.
Yeah, I'm biased with Troy Aikman, obviously, but
I'm biased too because Troy Aikman almost always makes the bottom of my top 10 quarterbacks of all time list, and people attack me for it. And my problem here is with Troy Aikman, I don't think the problems are the numbers. I still say that the Buffalo Bills in that second Super Bowl where they had to lead at the half, if they would have had to lead with 2 minutes left and Troy Aikman would have got the ball 98 yards away like a John Elway did against Cleveland and would have drove the length of the field to win the Super Bowl, I think the conversation about Troy Aikman completely changes. I think the problem is his team was so great that he was never in a situation in a Super Bowl. You know, Joe Montana, if all four of his Super Bowls would have been like the one against Miami and the one against Denver, if he'd have won all four of those like 50-10, I don't think that he would nearly be thought of as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But when you throw the drive in the 81 championship game and you throw the Super Bowl 23 92-yard drive in the last 2.5 minutes, I think that's what puts him over the top. With Tom Brady, he had the two touchdown drives against Seattle. He had to come back against Atlanta. He's had multiple last second drives to win Super Bowls or to win playoff games. And the problem with Troy Aikman was, hell, the Cowboys were very rarely even in a competitive playoff game and never in a competitive Super Bowl, really, except for Super Bowl 30 against Pittsburgh.
so because they dominated, people want to take away from Troy.
They will take away from Troy because this
But
is
what's
the
wrong
thing.
with dominance?
This is the thing.
Isn't
But
that what we strive
dominance
for?
is not about Troy Aikman. Dominance was about Emmitt Smith and the defense. Now, if you get to the last 2 minutes of the game, the dominance is about Troy Aikman. So I'm not ripping him, and I don't take away from him for it because that's why I think he's not in the conversation for greatest quarterbacks of all time, just because the fact that he didn't have. If I ask you as a Cowboys fan, tell me the greatest drive to win a game Troy Aikman had in the playoffs or the Super Bowl. Is there anything that stands out?
Well, what do you mean?
I mean, give me a last-second drive to win a Super Bowl or a playoff game. That takes away from him. If you took Super Bowl 23 and turned it into 50-10, Niners beat the Bengals, I don't think Joe Montana would be looked at the way he is. I mean, John Elway's looked at the way he is because of the 98-yard drive against Denver, to come from behind win against the Oilers, the Super Bowl drive in the last 4 minutes against Green Bay to take the lead. And, you know, a guy like Brett Favre is remembered because he ended playoff games with interceptions. Troy Aikman doesn't have either one. Troy Aikman is just kind of down the center. He did his job. He was on a great team, and he won. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for what he did. I totally agree with that. I'm just giving you why I think he doesn't get the credit he deserves.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, because like I said, he's always in the bottom of my top 10. And to me, even, if you throw in a great last-minute drive to win a Super Bowl, hell, he's probably in my top 5. So a lot of his perception, and it's something, his ranking is something that he really can't do anything about because it's the way people perceive him, and it's the way they'll always perceive him because he was on one of the, I think, probably the second or third best team I've ever seen. Maybe the best team I've ever seen because they were complete. They had everything. The only other teams that I think ever existed, like the Cowboys of 92, 93, would have probably been the Steelers, 77, 78, 49ers, 88, and 89. Now, the thing is this. Those Steelers, 78 or 78, 79, had very good teams to challenge them. And the Cowboys, who they beat 35-31, the Rams, who they beat 31-19. But people forget, until Vince Ferragamo throws an interception with 4 minutes left in that game, the Rams are driving to win. And Terry Bradshaw, who I think gets a lot of undue criticism also, because Bradshaw's always in my top 10, Bradshaw threw 2 huge touchdown passes in that fourth quarter to win that game. You look at the 49ers, they at least got to play against a really good Cincinnati Bengals team. They beat the hell out of the Broncos, but that Broncos team they beat 55-10 was the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL that year. So when you look at, you know, the Dallas Cowboys, they played the Buffalo Bills twice, and they played a Pittsburgh Steelers team with Neil O'Donnell. And I think in the end, that's what separates the greatness of Troy Aikman from guys like Brady and Montana.
Before we move off of this, do you think if the Buffalo Bills didn't miss that kick, if Scott Norwood didn't miss the kick in the first Super Bowl, do you think momentum could have driven Buffalo to maybe 4 straight Super Bowl wins?
No, because I don't think they had. I don't think this. I think Super Bowl 25. Marv Levy got outcoached by Belichick and Parcells. They had the best team in the NFL, and they lost. But when you get to Super Bowl 26, 27, 28, I just think the Redskins and Cowboys were better than them. Maybe it makes a difference in 26. Maybe it doesn't. I mean, possibly it does there. They still don't mess with the Cowboys in those 2 games, and it may have made a difference. But still, that 48-yard field goal by Scott Norwood never should have had to happen because the Buffalo Bills were a superior team to the New York Giants. I mean, if you got to remember, Phil Simms got hurt in the regular season, lost to the Bills at home, and Jeff Hostetler was a backup quarterback. I mean, the Bills, with one of the 2 or 3 most powerful offenses the NFL had ever seen, and maybe the most powerful they'd ever seen at that time, I mean, they got beat by Jeff Hostetler, and they got outsmarted by Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
And also, I think we see the Super Bowl hangover at a lot of levels. You see it with, Super Bowl 23, the Bengals team that lost in the last seconds to the Niners. That was a hell of a lot better team than to be 8-8 the next year. And they blew that game. They had a lot of things happen that cost them that game. You look at Super Bowl 20, I think it's really hard for teams to overcome that. And I think we definitely see it with the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, I don't think that team's ever the same as long as Dan Quinn's there. And they're really good, but there's something missing there. When you watch them play now or the year before, anytime after that Super Bowl, they don't have the fire that they had before because something, you lose a game like that that's that big, it takes something out of you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Which is what, Dan Quinn's calling his own defensive plays now. That's desperation.
Yeah, because there's issues there. And those issues, I think, are more than meets the eye. Because they're up 28-3. There's 3 minutes left in the Super Bowl. Everybody in Atlanta is planning a victory party. Those guys are walking down the sideline asking each other what their ring sizes are. They think that they've just won the Super Bowl, and a half hour later, it's gone. And you can never get that back. And, it was taken from them because of poor coaching. They could have taken a knee with 1 second left in the play clock the rest of that game and won that game.
Does any of that go on? Well, you're going to say no. I'm going to say Kyle Shanahan was calling the plays, but Dan Quinn's the head coach.
It all goes on Dan Quinn and Kyle Shanahan because they've got headsets on for a reason. And as a head coach, you hear every offensive and defensive call. If you don't like it, you change it. If you don't change it, you endorse it. You hired Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan screwed it up. You allowed it to continue to screw up because I'm sorry, but I don't think Bill Belichick is going to snap the ball. If Josh McDaniels calls a couple plays and the ball's snapped with 20 seconds left in the play clock, I guarantee you Bill Belichick's going to tell him it's not going to happen again. And they continued to let it happen because they were scared to death of what was on the other sideline.
And it bit them.
Yeah, because usually Bill Belichick bites you. But, all right, Cam Newton may be out a little bit longer than people thought now. He's got a Liz Frank injury. Do you think Cam
4
Newton
to 8 weeks?
Yeah. Do you think
is the initial?
Does Cam Newton ever start for the Panthers again? Or is that just dependent on how good Kyle Allen does?
I think it's all on Kyle Allen. I know that Ron Rivera said that Cam's going to be the starter, but I don't know if he anticipated Cam missing more than a game or two. If he's going to be out 4 to 8 weeks, I'm going to think it's going to be closer to 8 weeks, and it wouldn't surprise me if Kyle Allen starts winning games if they shut Cam down.
Well, I think that they will.
Because you can't you can't have Cam healthy and not start him. The way around it is putting him on IR.
So let me ask you this. What's Kyle Allen got to do to make it so Cam Newton doesn't come back? If he goes 4-4
win football games.
If he's 4-4 over the next 8, does that keep his job if he's played well?
Considering when was the last time Cam Newton won a game? So yes.
Yeah, but and I think it's safe to say Ron Rivera is going to be one of the guys on the hot seat no matter how this plays out, unless they win a lot of games.
And he needs to be.
Yeah, well, he needed to be a year or two ago. All right, John Harbaugh. I know you brought this up the other day. His analytical approach to his game against the Chiefs, going for two, going for fourth down a few times. What was your take on that, Anthony?
I wasn't a fan of it, and I think it cost him the game in the long run.
Okay.
I like
Continue.
the traditional go kick the extra point, play football, go for two when you need to.
But he felt that he needed to.
The game wasn't out of hand.
He just felt that he needed to.
Well, I mean, look how it worked out for Mike Tomlin.
I just hate analytics. Yeah, but John Harbaugh's a good coach, so I'll give him more leeway than I will Mike Tomlin. And I mean, the other thing is this: going for it on fourth down, 2 out of the 3 times worked and led to touchdowns.
Yeah, but I don't know. You don't. I get the fourth down thing, but unless you need the 2-point conversion, kick the extra point. Get the points while you can.
Here's the way I take it. What's the conversion rate for 2-point conversions? Isn't it like 45 to 50%?
Oh, is it? I gotta look.
I think it is. Look
It's
that up.
that
real
high.
quick. I think it is. I think it's like 40, 45, somewhere between 40 and 50.
I'm looking that up right now.
Just have your assistant look it up for you. That's how they do it at ESPN.
Oh, my assistants have 4 legs.
I hope they're dogs.
And this is for 2018 at least. That's the first thing that came up. 47.5% success rate.
All right, so...
Oh, no, NFL teams are converting at a 60% clip in 2018. So last year was 60%. I guess before that was 47.5%.
So my question is, they were down pretty big at one point. The thing that I didn't get about this, and I'm not agreeing with him or disagreeing him, it is what it is. If it would have worked, everybody would have said he was great. So he went for 2 after getting it to 11 points, and that attempt failed. Harbaugh explained that he was ultimately looking to avoid overtime with the Chiefs. My problem with that is if you just kick to 1 and you get it to 10, and you kick a field goal and you score a touchdown and you're down by 1 with like a minute or 2 left, then I can see why you would want to go for 2 there. But the other problem is if you keep it at 11, when you miss it, if the Chiefs come back and kick a field goal, you're back to 14, which means you need 2 touchdowns again. So that's the one thing that didn't make sense to me. I think you make an 11-point game a 10-point game, and you go for the 2 at the end of the game, if you know what I'm saying, if you want to win the game. That makes more sense to me. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense to me than let's try to cut it to 9 right now to avoid overtime, especially when you've got a fair amount of time left and you don't know what they're going to do scoring-wise either. Anything else you want to talk about today, Anthony?
I'm just looking at the news wire, but let's see if there's anything significant. Outside of, Virgil Green, the starting tight end now for the Chargers, he's dealing with a minor quad injury. But outside of that, I mean, that's an irrelevant position without Hunter Henry unless they go and pick up Gates off the, from retirement.
Hey, the Vikings re-signed Laquan Treadwell.
Yeah, they released him. They gave up on him.
Well, now they're not giving up on him. They changed their minds. But also tomorrow, I'm not sure about this yet. I just sent him a message a few minutes ago. But Sam Teets, his quarterback power rankings will be out tomorrow morning on thegruelingtruth.com. I'm actually checking the tweets just to see if he's responded to me yet, if he's going to be on or not. But either way, me and Anthony will talk about it if nothing else. So we can.
Yeah, he doesn't need to be on air to rip him.
Yeah, he doesn't need to be on air for me and Anthony to rip him. We've already ripped John Harbaugh, and I don't know. We didn't rip Troy Aikman, and I think Troy Aikman's a stud. My big thing there was Patrick Mahomes really didn't need to hear that, if you know what I mean. He had nothing to do with it. He was an innocent bystander. And I think 3 or 4 years from now, we'll know more where Patrick Mahomes stands. Not right now. It's still too early, and he's, second year he's been a starter, and he's only a few games into that. Anthony, tell everybody where they can find you on the FF Face-Off. I know the Grueling Truth is one of those places where they can see your waiver wire Week 4 pickups show from last night on thegruelingtruth.com.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at the Real NFL Guru. You can follow the show at the FF Face Off. I'm on all over the social media platforms, and the FF Face Off is all over the podcast platforms. And we'll be coming back with the show tonight, recapping all of Week 3 and a small look ahead to Week 4.
All right, and tonight on thegruelingtruth.com, you can hear our NFL Weekly Pick'em show, picking the game against the points, which Anthony has never wanted to come on.
That's late. That's late for me.
It's 10 o'clock. Come on, it's not late. You could come on right now and still beat out the guy that's in last place because Brian Schmidt's 6-26. So
wow.
I don't know what he did this week. I just like to bring it up, and I hope Brian's listening because he gets tired of me. I even brought it up on his CFL Weekly Pick'em show.
You just bet the opposite of everything he says. Jeez.
I know. Actually, it's not like I've been a whole lot better, but you can't be a whole lot worse than 6-26. Make sure you follow The Grueling Truth at Grueling Truth. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Anthony Cervino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.